start. I left you out of the list of speakers, but you're very, very welcome.
That's all
And
right.
I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Well, you haven't heard from me yet. Just reserve your judgment until we're finished. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for inviting me to speak to your committee. I should tell you that my 14-year-old daughter is very disappointed that you wanted me to do it via Zoom and didn't insist that I attend in person, where undoubtedly she would have had to accompany me. So maybe if I'm invited back, you can make a special note of that. Look, Ken and Dave have really covered most of the issues. So I just wanted to quickly go over what I think are really critical about reform to the way that tax is enforced in Australia. I can't comment with any great expertise about the UK system, but I suspect there are many overlaps with what has occurred in Australia. And essentially at the very core of this is whether governments exist to serve people or citizens exist to serve governments. And the way that our laws have evolved in the tax area, we have certainly put the government at the centre of its service, and citizens exist only to serve them. We have provided tax agencies in the Western world with extraordinary powers that are in breach of some pretty fundamental legal rights. The reason that we have done this is in Australia is because executive government loves to spend money on people whose votes it wishes to accrue at any upcoming election, but it doesn't want to run deficit budgets or budgets that are too far in deficit. So the tax system has been used as a black box, and tax agencies and the ATO in Australia has been often given the job of collecting as much tax as possible. It has leveraged that position to ask for some very extraordinary powers, including things like it can collect debts before those debts have been proven. And also, we use our tax system here in Australia not so much to fund the activities of government, but we put a lot of social policy in there. And the impact of social policy in the tax system is that it creates opportunities for very clever tax barristers and tax lawyers to redefine four-wheel drives as farm tractors, and therefore something that shouldn't be taxed the same way that a normal car is. That obviously creates a lot of friction and a lot of opportunity for the tax office in Australia to describe simple changes can collect more tax dollars. Ken's idea, which he brought to me not too long ago, which was effectively to embed in the tax office a taxpayer advocate whose job is to look after the interests of taxpayers, is, I think, the only solution that we have been able to observe globally to this problem, primarily because members of parliament are not, well, indeed in Australia, people who have studied for many years and have practiced tax law for many years will tell you that they are only experts in one or two areas of the tax system. So it is impossible for members of parliament who do not have that experience and have other duties to possibly be across the entire operation of the tax system, which means when legislation comes before us, we're not really equipped to determine what negative externalities those provisions will have on Australia's citizens. Therefore, having someone whose sole job is to make sure that those pieces of legislation are not passed, or if they are passed, members of parliament fully understand their implications. And when they are passed, to Dave's point, what we have found is that if the ATO doesn't like the provisions and doesn't like the meaning of them, they will spend 5 or 6 years redefining what the law says to do what they actually want it to. And it is incredibly difficult for members of parliament, and indeed for members of the executive, to stay on top of that. And that's why having someone embedded in the ATO with a very clear set of rights is so critical to maintaining the rights, well, not just the rights, but actually the balance of power between the tax office and the ordinary citizen. Thank you.
Thank you.